You know, I don't think Arceus decks get enough love, so we're going to talk about one. I think it's a really interesting deck, and we're going to talk at the list and then some combos and strategies we can use with it. Hey, Nick from 9Card TCG, and you know, this is super off topic, but I've been thinking about it nonstop. Just before we started recording this, I was on TikTok, and I was there was a video that was like, today is it's the 10-year anniversary since the Harlem Shake trend. Like that was like the big thing in 2013, and I'd forgotten about it, and it's really stupid. It's really stupid, but it's so funny, and it makes me feel incredibly old. I don't think I'm quite over it, honestly, but there we are. So that has nothing to do with nothing to do with today's video. I can't stop thinking about it. Arceus is a really good card, and it can be paired with pretty much anything. And today we are pairing it with everything, and this is called Arceus Counterbox. You're gonna see why. It's pretty obvious. But before we get into the actual deck profile, if you haven't already, do me a favor: like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Tells YouTube this is a good channel. Other people should watch it. I don't think I have anything else to say. We're just gonna go ahead and take a look at this Arceus deck. So obviously, we're looking at Arceus decks, which means we need 4 Arceus Vs, right? Arceus is, oh god, there's so much glare. Arceus is our main attacker here. It's the way that we're going to power up so much of this deck. And of course, if we have Arceus V, we need Arceus V Star. Oh, I wanted to try to spread it out really nicely, but you know how that goes. I want this to look clean and nice. And that's about as good as it's going to get, I guess, right? Because apparently I'm not good at this. Arceus V-Star, one of the things that, I'm going to bring this up a little closer. One of the things that makes Arceus V-Star so good is the God, you can barely see it. Can you focus up here? Camera, can you focus? Trinity Nova, 3 colorless energies, does 200 damage, which is great. And you get to search your deck for up to 3 basic energies and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way you want. Very, very good attack. The V has Trinity Charge for 2 colorless energies, and it just does the energy part. We get to search the deck for up to 3 basic energies and attach it to our Pokemon V in any way we want. Really, really cool. Remember, Pokemon V does include Pokemon V, V-Star, V-Max, V-Union. As long as it has V in its name, it can be targeted by this attack. We also have Starbirth, our once per game V-Star power that lets us search a deck for any 2 cards we want. It is an incredible ability, and it lets us set up combo pieces really, really nicely. Now, this is a little bit in contrast to the other V-Star power that we have in the form of Aerodactyl V and Aerodactyl V-Star. Yes, these are proxies. Thank you for noticing. One of the reasons we have Aerodactyl V-Star is 2 reasons. One, it can one-shot Arceus pretty easily. You have Lost Dive for a fighting double colorless. It does 240, which means we're hitting for 220 with a Choice Belt, which is really good against opposing Vs, and like I said, knocking out anything that is weak to fighting. And you also have to Lost Zone, put the top 2 cards of your deck into the Lost Zone. So, whatever. But, the reason we have this Aerodactyl V-Star is the V-Star power, which remember, we can only use 1 V-Star power, so we have to choose between Starbirth and Ancient Star. Using Ancient Star is a little interesting because we have to attach an energy and use the attack Ancient Star, which then turns into an ability that says as long as Aerodactyl V-Star is in play, all of your opponent's Pokemon V have no abilities, which is really cool because you can turn off Genesect, you can turn off Starbirth, you can turn off Star Portal, you can turn off any ability on your opponent's Pokemon V. Really, really cool. So one of the challenges is that this has to not get knocked out during your opponent's next turn, which means if you're playing Lugia and they're able to just, set up before you get this Ancient Star going. Using Ancient Star is not really helpful anymore. Like, if they already used Summoning Star and got their, their Archeops into play, well, Ancient Star does not turn off the Archeops ability, it only turns off the Lugia ability. So, if once this thing gets KO'd, they go back to having abilities again. But anyway, so it has to kind of stay in the active spot for at least one turn to not get KO'd, and then you can retreat. You do have a retreat cost of 2, so you're going to get free retreat with Air Balloon, or you can just remove the DTE. If you have enough to attack, you have enough to use to retreat, so that's kind of cool. Some of the other things that we have to keep in mind is that things like Yveltal and Sableye are very, very popular in the format right now, so we are running Espeon V and VMAX. These are also proxies because I don't have a lot of cards apparently. Solar Revelation is our ability on Espeon VMAX, and it says as long as any of our Pokemon have energy onto it, they can't be targeted by effects from attacks of our opponent's Pokemon, which means we have Aerodactyl V-Star in the active, for example, and it has an energy attached to it. Our opponent can't use Yveltal's Amazing Destruction to KO it. Or, conversely, our opponent does 240 damage to our Arceus V-Star, and then we retreat to the bench and attack with something else. They cannot use Lost Mine to put damage counters onto the Arceus V-Star because the Espeon VMAX's Solar Revelation protects it. So, really, really cool. It is a nice ability for the meta. We do have Flying Pikachu V and VMAX. Why do we have Flying Pikachu V and VMAX? 1, they have free retreat, so that's really cool. 2, there might be some water stuff like Palkias looming around occasionally. You do see them. There was Palkia at my local, so it's still around, it still exists. And also, it's really great against Regis and Lost Box, 2 very popular decks, particularly Lost Box, because Max Balloon for that Lightning Double Colorless, it's enough to knock out pretty much everything in that Lost Box deck, and during your opponent's next turn, this card cannot be attacked by basic Pokemon, which is pretty much all any Lost Box decks have are basic Pokemon. So even though we are weak to Lightning, and Lost Box decks might run Amazing Rare Raikou, they might run Raikou V, those are both basic Pokemon, which means this Pikachu cannot be damaged by it if we use Max Balloon during our last turn. Now, one of the caveats of that is something like Escape Rope Boss. So for example, I want to cover this. We have our Pikachu in the active. We use Max Balloon, and we have the Espeon on the bench. We have energies, so now they can't Lost Mine it, and they can't Yveltal it, whatever. If they play Escape Rope, which forces us to put our Pikachu onto the bench, now the attack's effect is reset because you can't have things like that on the bench. So if they then play Boss's Orders or Serena to then bring it back into the active, they can attack it now with the basic Pokemon. And Lost Box decks and Regis often play Escape Ropes for this card. So something very important to keep in mind. The boss, like the Escape Rope boss play, is a very real one that you have to remember and maybe play around, which is why if you are playing against something like a Lost Zone or a Regis, try not to bench too many things, because if you don't have anything on the bench, when they use Escape Rope, nothing happens to you. So that's kind of the strategy against like Lost Zone and stuff like that. Really just try to get that Pikachu into play. We have a Drapion V because we need to be able to deal with Mew. We have Empoleon V because still Lost Box stuff. Emperor Eyes turns off basic non-rule box Pokemon abilities when it's in the active. So if it's in the active, we're able to knock out stuff in Lost Zone decks. We're able to knock out Comfeys and Cramorants, and then they can't use their Comfey. They can't use their Regigigas or their Regidrago abilities if you're playing against Reggie. So just kind of something else to put onto the bench. If you are playing against those decks, you can get the Pikachu and the Empoleon. So if they do Escape Rope, well, now they're going to put this into the active, and now they still don't have abilities, as opposed to not being able to attack. Just kind of like really trying to limit what your opponent can do in those situations. We have 2 more V Pokemon, a Crobat V, so we can draw some cards, and then a Lumineon V, so we can play it from our hand and find a supporter card. And we got a lot of supporters. I'm going to just move these over. I know there's a glare. You're going to have to deal with it. I just get running out of space on this side. So there we go. There's our Pokemon V. I guess I still have more space, right? Although I don't think at this point, what's the difference? There we go. Still have 2 more Pokemon, and that is Pumpkaboo to get rid of Stadiums. This is a really good card in a deck like this, as you can tell. Ability, 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 ability. This turns into ability, ability. Now, obviously, if our opponent plays Path to the Peak, they turn off their Pokemon V abilities too. So if they don't care, then we don't care, right? So that's kind of cool. It's like a Mew. We Ancient Star, and you know, now Mew can't use their Genesect. Well, if they play Path to turn off Ancient Star, then their Genesect still don't have abilities. So kind of cool. But we have a lot of abilities, so we need to be able to bounce Path to the Peak when we wanted to. We need to be able to bounce Path against Mew if we haven't used Ancient Star, so we can use Drapion. We need to be able to bounce Path against Lost Box, so we can keep, or like random Lugia attacks that might run Path for some reason, that we can keep our Solar Revelation active, things like that. And then we do have one of Yveltal. This is the Celebration. Yveltal will cry Destruction, double colorless. Discard up to 3 special energies attached to your opponent's Pokemon any way you want. Really cool for just a little bit of disruption in combination with like the Aerodactyl and the Espeon and the Empoleon, all that kind of stuff, just to really bother your opponent. So cool. That's a fun time. That's all the Pokemon. I'm gonna like try to stack them. I don't know. So that's all of our Pokemon. We're gonna move on to the trainers. We have a switch card. Just a random switch. Our opponent bosses something up. Well, we can use something like Starburst to just find that switch card. Move whatever we want out of the active. We have Hisuian Heavy Ball. I guess I'll put these here. Hisuian Heavy Ball. We prized our Genesect and Mew. We really want to be able to get it. Now we got the Heavy Ball to find it. A couple of copies of Hyper Potion. This is actually really interesting. A lot, if you noticed, and I didn't make a point of it, but if you notice, almost all of our attackers attack for a basic energy plus a double colorless, basic plus double colorless, fighting plus double colorless, psychic plus double colorless, lightning double colorless. Against Mew attacks for free, water double colorless, water double colorless, double colorless, even though we're not ever attacking with Pumpkaboo. And then the Crobat does attack for a dark, which we don't have, but we really don't want to attack with Crobat anyway because we have Drapion into Mew and other psychic types. So there we go. So we can very easily play Hyper Potion, heal 120 off of one of our VMAXs, off of our V-Star, and then just reattach a double Turbo Energy to attack. So, for example, we'll use Arceus as this example just for funsies. We got a Lightning and double colorless attached to it, right? We got this Lightning double colorless. We play the Hyper Potion, heal 120 damage, discard the Hyper Potion, and then discard the DT, and then just attach another DTE, and we're ready to go. We're ready to keep attacking. So we can kind of keep ourselves in the game a little bit longer because we have such a use of DTE. That's actually kind of nice. It's pretty cool. So there we go. Hyper Potions just to give ourselves a little bit of survivability, especially with our Arceus and VMAXs. We really need to find our evolution Pokemon, so 3 evolution incenses make sense. We have a lot of evolution Pokemon. We also need to be able to find our basic Pokemon so we can evolve them to begin with. 4 Quick Balls, and then 4 Ultra Balls so we can find any Pokemon we want when we want to. A couple of Air Balloons to give us free pivot. Pretty much everything here has either 2 retreat costs or less. I don't think there's anything with 3. Drapion probably has 2 as well. Yeah, I think everything has 3 or 2 or less. So free pivots with Air Balloon. Pretty nice. Moving on to supporters, we got Sharon's Care. This really only works for the Arceus, but there are going to be plenty of times we want to loop our Arceus. Maybe we have a Lightning Energy attached to our Arceus and the other one's in the discard, but we need to attack with Flying Pikachu. Well, if that Arceus is damaged, we can play Sharon's Care, pick up the Arceus and all cards attached to it, promote the Flying Pikachu, attach the Lightning Energy that we just got back from the Arceus, and now we're able to attack with the Flying Pikachu. We don't have that many energies, like that many basic energies in play, so you really need to be careful about how much you spread your energies and where you attach them into who. So playing Asheron's Care can get you that energy that you might need during the turn. Of course, we want to be able to bring up our opponent's Pokemon to take KOs when we want, so we have a couple copies of Boss's Orders. I'm going to move these supporters down here, just because they're different. Then we got 3 copies of Professor's Research, a little bit of consistency, discard your hand. I almost said discard your hog, and that's not what you want to do. Discard your hand, draw 7. We do lean really heavy into the Disruption with 4 copies of Marnie, because a lot of Lost decks and Reggies and Mews and all that kind of stuff, they just build quite a large hand, and if we can shuffle that hand and put it to the bottom, it's going to be that much harder for our opponent to find the cards they need, make the plays they want, and we just really try to disrupt and annoy them as we go. Moving on, we do have a stadium. We have a single collapse stadium. It's nothing special. It's just so that we can either get rid of one of our V Pokemon or a Pokemon we don't want in play. Maybe we don't need the Arceus V-Star anymore. It's just a liability, or the Aerodactyl V-Star is a liability on the bench. We can go ahead and play Collapse Stadium to get it out of play, which is really good, because if it's damaged, well, our opponent can't get those prize cards anymore, especially for like something like a VMAX. So we can get potential liabilities off the field. We can get that Crobat and Lumineon off the field if we really want to, so our opponent just can't boss KO, get 2 free prizes. It also is really nice. That's kind of like a defensive use for it, but we can use it offensively in, say, like the Reggie matchup or the Lost Zone matchup. Really nice in Reggies, honestly, where we can force them to get rid of 2 Reggies in a single turn. One of the issues with Reggies is that you need all 6 Reggies in play at all times, so that you can have access to your attacks and use the Ancient Wisdom ability on the Regigigas. So just attacking one Reggie at a time is really, really annoying, because they just find that other Reggie, that one Reggie, and put it into play, and now they're ready to go. However, if we can get rid of 2 Reggies, it's that much easier for us, because now they have to find 2 Reggies instead of 1. That can be really difficult, especially if you pair it with something like Boss's Orders and knock out a Reggie that we know is already in the discard. So if they have a Reggie Rock in the discard because they saw the Arceus, so they try to attack with the Reggie Rock. We just maybe boss up the other Reggie Rock. Then we play Collapse Stadium. That's going to force them to get rid of a Reggie. Now they only have 5 in play. We go ahead. Actually, they get rid of. They can't have more than 4. So they get rid of 1 Reggie on the bench, and then we knock out the Reggie Rock. So now there's 2 Reggie Rocks in the discard. They probably don't run more than 2. And we got rid of some other one that they chose. Just make it a little bit harder. Or maybe we knock out something like their Air Balloon, so they don't have that free retreat. Maybe we knock out their Regidrago, so that they can't use the Dragon Horde ability to draw them until they have 4 cards in their hand. A lot of really good options against something like Reggies, and obviously things like Lost Box and Mew can be really useful against as well. Moving on to our energies, we have 1 Fighting Energy, Aerodactyl V-Star. We are not going to be using it as often as everything else, so we got the 1 Fighting Energy. We have 2 Water Energies. We can use those for Empoleon and also for Lumineon. Lumineon's not a bad attacker into single prize decks. Aqua Return does 120 damage, and then you shuffle it and everything attached to it back into the deck, so it's a good way to get those prizes off the field, and also do 120 damage to just a single prize Pokemon, which is pretty cool. If we have a DTE attached, you're only doing 100, but that's still enough to knock out things like Comfeys, and if you do go across like a Drizzile for some reason, you can knock that out. Or just putting chip damage into a VMAX, whatever. There's a lot of things we could use that for. We do have 2 copies of Lightning Energy, because, well, Flying Pikachu VMAX is a very important attacker in this particular meta. Again, Lost Box and Reggies are very, very common, so we want to be able to attack with the Flying Pikachu when we want to. 2 copies of Psychic Energy. This isn't as useful because you're not going to attack with the Espeon as much, But I don't remember Espeon's exact attack. Max Mindstorm does 60 times the number of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So this is really nice against like Lugia decks, where they, or maybe opposing Arceus decks, where they put a bunch of energies into play because they're using their Primal Turbo ability, just powering up a bunch of Pokemon. We could just hit for really big damage with the Espeon, and we do probably attack with the Espeon at some point in Lugia, since it's already on the field, and we want to be able to maximize our cards in play. Espeon's already on the field to protect ourselves against, say, Yveltal, so if it's already in play, we might as well make use of it. That's where we got the Psychic Energies. We have 2 Capture Energies. Again, it's just early game setup, really, really nice. They're just good energies to attach to, say, like an Arceus, or something to like a Lumineon to attach and then retreat, discard it to retreat, things like that. It's just a really good setup card. And then we have 4 copies of DTE. I'll tell you, if we could have more DTE, we probably would, because so many of our Pokemon use DTE. The Hyper Potions are really, really useful in this deck. So if we could have more than 4 DTE, we probably would. Twin Energy isn't helpful here because we're all Pokemon V, and it explicitly states that it doesn't provide double colorless energy for Pokemon V. So a little annoying, but yeah, there we go. Between the Hyper Potions and all the attacks, DTE's really, really good. But this is the entire deck. I'll be honest, I have not played any real games with it, but it seems really, really cool. I've played against it, and I've seen it used. Looks really great. I actually love the variety of options that this deck provides. Fighting, Psychic, Electric, Dark, Water, and that's pretty much our attackers, plus Arceus. I mean, it's the god of Pokemon. How could it not be good? But that is going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, found it informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I guess I'll see you next time.